So
This might be the most interesting episode we have ever done.
Welcome to Cue the Mic. I'm Darren Worth.
and I'm Randy Twyford.
And I'm Emma Derflinger, and this is episode 46.
46.
We're getting pretty good at that intro stuff, guys.
Yeah, we've kind of got it down to a science now, I think, which is scary.
We don't let
We'll
Randy
fuck it
say
up
so
soon.
much. It goes a little bit smoother.
So we were
Wasn't
without
very nice.
Mr. Twyford last week.
Yeah.
He was having to work at the Illinois Beef Expo. So catch us up, Randy.
It went good is to be very light on it. I mean, it exceeded my expectations. They had over 780 head of cattle there, and moms, dads, grandpas, all the families with them. We ran out of food, and we went heavy on food, but we could only bring so much food because of we were in the food truck, and we pretty well got wiped out of food every day. I mean, kept bumping it up, and we sold pretty good. One of the biggest sellers was our farm, which is our cheesy potato casserole with burnt ends on it, and people went crazy over that. So the other thing we did for the first time is we did breakfast. Thanks to you, some of your help on that, Darren. People loved the walking tacos when we did the biscuits and gravy and put it in a cup and then give them a spoon. They were just amazed by it.
You mean the walking biscuits and gravy?
Excuse me, walking biscuits and gravy. I fucked up there. Sorry. I'm so used to everybody talking about walking tacos, but the walking biscuits and gravy. People just love that. The fact, kind of like you were saying, think about your customer. Our customer, if they got a clamshell with biscuits and gravy in it, they would have to take it back to the show box, to their stalls, and eat it there. And the fact that they could just eat it as they're walking around, going back to their stalls or bullshitting with everybody. Cattle shows are a lot similar to barbecue contests. There's a lot of BS going on, talking about this one, talking about gossip is just as bad as in the barbecue contest, And so and then we did our brisket breakfast burritos, and those were a big hit. And the people really liked the brisket being in them. They thought it added a real nice taste to it. So I bumped those up every day. We did them, and we did our special biscuits and gravy mix, and people loved it. So the breakfast was a big success. I mean, I started a little earlier than I thought that I needed to, but the thing of it is these guys are up, crack of dawn, and so we would have to be ready to serve lunch starting at about 9:30, 10 o'clock, because they'd be wanting to eat lunch, get something to eat before they'd start showing their cattle and stuff. So it was a long weekend. We were up there for 4 days, but had some good help helping us and stuff, and had nice power to plug into, so that helped out a lot. We didn't have to run on the generator or anything. So let's just put it this way.
That's always nice.
The executive director of it, he came by a lot and become pretty good friends with him. And on Sunday morning, he came by. He always just kind of do the check-in. How are things going? Does the Beef Association need to be doing anything to help you out? Blah blah blah. And I told him Sunday morning, I said, if you want your deposit for next year, I'll write you a check or give you cash, whichever one you want today, so we can go into it. Now, it is the last weekend. It is the last weekend of February, so I mean, weather can be an issue. There's a guy that had been, he did ribeye steak sandwiches there this was his 37th year of being there, and had a couple concession stands in the livestock center. And he said, and last weekend you couldn't ask for a nicer weekend. But he said, let it turn off cold and snow, and he goes, it gets pretty lonely around there. So just like any other vending thing, it's very weather determined by weather. Now, the only thing is a guy told me that had cattle there. He said if it does snow, it doesn't make any difference. If cattle need to be taken care of. There's stuff, and the show goes on. So it's going to affect you some, but not completely knock you out of the park. But overall,
right. You just got to think about that.
Yeah, and watch the weather. But with the food truck business, you got to watch the weather anyway. I mean, that was kind of a nice kickoff, and then this week we're going to have the food truck out 4 days this week, and I think the thing of it is the food truck operator has to be a meteorologist also, so they can kind of keep a track of the weather. I'm looking at the weather. It's supposed to be nice Tuesday, Wednesday. We ought to have, and it's our first days out. We ought to have blowout days, and then Thursday should be pretty decent. But then on Friday they're calling a chance of rain, so gauging on how much we're going to make, and it's hard to gauge. This is our first week out, so hope people have been asking for us, so hopefully they'll come out and see us and stuff. So
support. Yeah, that walking biscuits and gravy. So Tim Shop showed me that at a barbecue contest years ago, and we've used that a couple times and whatever. And it's just it just goes back to every decision you make. Just think about that customer, because Randy called up and when we were going to do it, he said he was going to do a half and a large order of biscuits and gravy. So he was either going to do 2 biscuits or 4 biscuits in a clamshell and put gravy over the top. I'm like, Randy, they're going to walk around. They got a damn plastic fork. How are they going to eat that and cut that up and whatever? So I brought up the idea that Tim Shop had taught me a long time ago about the walking biscuits and gravy, and he adapted, and I'm glad he was successful doing that. I had no doubt. You had no doubt whether you were going to sell breakfast or not. But once I knew that would be a popular, now the weather turns cold, to me, you adapt again. Instead of going into a plastic solo cup, then you go into the styrofoam cup with the lid and
Correct.
Put the spoon through the lid, the straw hole in the lid, so that now you're keeping it warm for them if they're walking back to their stall and stuff like that. So that's just adapting, right? I mean, change the vessel, but ultimately what you're trying to do is serve the customer the best food you can and make it last the longest.
And it went over big. I mean, it went over real big. People really liked them. So, and
easy to do too.
Yeah.
Oh, simple to do. So, but overall,
awesome.
the Beef Expo was a success. So,
but you went ahead and cooked. You went ahead and cooked brisket, right?
For the regular service,
because we had talked about it was, since it was beef and brisket was so expensive, maybe implementing some chuck rolls and doing some chopped beef and whatever. But you ended up just going brisket and chopping brisket.
Yeah, I just did chopped brisket. So, and people loved it. There were some people there that had our sliced before at some caterings, and they felt like it was just as good as a sliced brisket. And you get to thinking about it, that has more fat in it than probably that sliced is going to have as you chop it up.
Yeah.
And,
even though you can't see the fat's there.
Let's face it, fat's your flavor. So it really went over well. And then we had some pork items. We were going to do ribs, but we decided we were going to take the pit up there and do ribs on it, but we decided not to, just because that would be the only thing we were going to do. And I'm glad we didn't, because it would end up being, especially of a morning, because I did the breakfast by myself. And so it kind of kept me hustling, getting there early to get stuff heated up and stuff. And then I did pick up on, I went ahead and made up some breakfast burritos ahead of time after the second day, and kept them in the warming cabinet we have on the truck. And that sure helped out a lot. People would want, hey, I want a burrito. Just grab it. It's wrapped in foil, hand it to them, and they were on their way. So.
Yeah.
Did you have the hot sauce there and everything?
Yep. Yeah. We had Texas Pete packets, and we had pico if they wanted to put pico on them. So whole 10 yards. So,
Yeah, he did.
and ended up going.
Now I'm hungry for a breakfast burrito.
I was just
those
thinking the
things,
same thing.
those turned out just exceptionally well, especially with using the brisket in it, instead of sausage. And use that chop. We used the chopped brisket, so it wasn't like sliced in there or anything. It's the chop, and really made a good consistency to it. And we got the flat top on the food truck so we could seal them up and stuff. So, and I'll be honest with you, that's really the first time I'd ever made burritos. And I had a kid that works for me. He's on the football team, and he makes his meals on Monday beforehand, and kind of showing me how to roll them up, and I got pretty good at it. Nothing
Pretty good.
Nothing that would compare to your girls up there in Des Moines, working in the restaurant, I'm sure. But for me,
They're
I
probably
was
ready
impressed.
for egg rolls now. I do have an egg roll video on how to make an egg roll. That I film my gals in the kitchen making egg rolls, and they're like perfect at them. Every single one is perfect. They just got this science. So I videoed it. So that's my instructional video. Yeah, speaking of food trucks, so we were at this festival. I'm down in Florida. I flew down. Sherry still got stuck in the call of jury duty. She had to call in, so she couldn't make the trip. So she's got to report or call in every Friday. So I said, well, I'm not going to let your jury duty call get in the way of my Florida. So I came down, went to this barbecue contest over in Belle Glade, Florida. We were out on this island
Really?
cooking barbecue, and there was a bunch of food trucks there, and they had a big crowd. They had an airboat show. They had, pretty much every redneck in Florida was there. It was amazing. But
so how many food trucks they have?
I bet you they had 10 there.
Oh, really?
All kind of barbecue. They did have an ice cream truck that was just absolutely murdering it, lined up. But the barbecue food trucks were doing really well. $40 a slab of ribs.
$40.
That's insane. That is absurd
for a slab of ribs.
Spares or baby backs?
People were paying that?
They were spares.
Holy
People were paying. Every one of those vendors, I think, sold out. I was talking to the organizer, and he said, all the vendors had a good day and whatever. Yeah, $40 a rack. And I know, one of the things we always talk about trying to keep our costs low. I just got caught in bad timing on brisket, and we're watching the brisket market. I had to buy into a truckload of brisket points,
right?
At $5.40 a pound. So I've got to put a price increase in on brisket. It's going to have to go up $3 a pound, and that's just my cost. I'm not adding any profit to it. $5.40 a pound versus I was at $4. That's $3 a pound on the plate. So I'm going to raise my price $3 a pound. Now, I'm still only going to be $23.99, so I'm still $5 under the market. But I just hate doing that. But it's just, if it would have been $1 a pound, I just would have absorbed it and figured out how do I make it somewhere else. But $3 a pound, just no way. That's $1 a portion.
Yeah. Yeah, that's insane.
$1 a portion. That's $1 a sandwich. So sandwiches that's what I got to work on this week when I get back to Des Moines. And it's always such a pain in the ass to update all our pricing on the everywhere menu boards and
there's a lot of steps to that.
And another thing is, you bought a semi load of them. So, you think, what if the market goes down? I don't think the beef market's going to go down. I was watching a thing on the news the other day, and they were talking about that, and they were interviewing a couple ranchers, and the ranchers said that right now the cow-calf numbers are as low as they've ever been, especially the cow numbers are as low as they've ever been in history. There's less cows out there to produce steers or fat cattle than there's ever been. So I think
that's what the beef buyer told me. The beef buyer said, hey, he said, I would like, and I got caught in the corned beef pack. So I had to buy these things, coming in through January. And I'm
Uh-huh.
just getting into that truckload now. But the corned beef, I never, we didn't buy a truckload in November when we should have because we still had a truckload. And we should have bought a truckload in November and we would have locked ourselves in, even though we would have had 2.5 truckloads sitting in storage.
Right.
But now we got into corned beef season and everybody steals all the brisket for corned beef, and all of a sudden here the price goes up. So unless something happens, he says it's going to be a tough spring, so I have no choice. Now, hopefully we get back to $4 points. I get back to $4 points, I'm going to take my price right back down.
Exactly.
But it just, because
I
we
don't think
haven't
that's
really
going to
had to
happen.
do any. Well,
I don't
yeah,
think that's
well,
going to
I
happen.
hope so. We are doing some exciting things at the restaurant. So I had a good meeting with the Milo Locker. We may have talked about that last time, but the Milo, we didn't talk about that, Emma. But
No.
the Milo Locker is a local production facility down in Milo, Iowa, which is about 45 minutes outside Des Moines.
Yeah.
And, I always heard about the Milo Locker and think, it's just a little local butcher shop. I went and took a tour of the whole facility. This is not just a local butcher shop. This is,
Yeah.
they're not big in scale. They only kill about 50 cattle a week,
Uh-huh.
and they kill like 150 hogs a week.
Right.
But they are, so everything they produce, every cattle, every hog comes within 30 miles of that plant.
Really?
And actually, I found an old college friend that raises cattle and raises hogs for them.
I'll be damned.
And so they've got this whole line of beef sticks. And so starting hopefully this week at Smoky D's, he's gonna sell me wholesale beef sticks, beef and pork sticks mixed, and whatever different jalapeno cheddar for us to put in the merchandiser. But
Oh,
he's
okay.
taken our sausages that we've had produced for us for years. One of them's well, they're both commercially made, but one of them is private labeled for us and has been for years. He's duplicated those sausages and able to sell them to me without going through all the distributor stuff. Able to sell them to me for about $1.25, $1.50 a pound cheaper than
Holy
I'm buying
shit.
today on all my sausage
Wow.
business.
Wow.
Holy
Plus,
shit.
we can promote local, so it's a
Yeah,
great
exactly.
thing. We're trying to talk more
Yeah.
about, he doesn't have enough beef to, even make a dent in what I need,
Sure.
but he's
Sure.
got some stuff on beef ribs and things like that I'm looking forward to kind of working some relationship things with them and some, co-branding type stuff on our menu
Sure.
with them, and, try and keep costs down for our customer and provide local meat.
Sure. That's a great idea.
So,
Great idea.
so pretty excited about that. And here's his beef sticks. I sampled about 5 packages. Oh, if you like a beef stick, amazing. And I know you
Milo.
like a beef stick, Randy.
Yeah, I do.
The
And
Milo
it's a
Locker.
Milo brand, Milo Locker. I wonder if they get
Yeah, the
any
Milo
down
Locker.
down anywhere down.
I don't know, but I walked into this place
I
and
don't
they
even
have.
think
You've never saw it?
I don't think so.
It takes up about a quarter of a city block in the town of Milo, and there's a loading chute in the alley where they come in and bring the cattle in and stage them,
Uh-huh.
and then they go through and they shoot them in the head and knock them in the head and hang them and gut them and da
We
da
don't
da
need
da.
to.
I
Why
know
did
you
you
don't
have
want
to do the details? Why? We could have
but
skipped that
anyway,
part.
you walk in and they created during COVID. They created this little grocery. They used to be just kind of a meat counter. Well, during
Right.
COVID, things were tough, so they went and they started buying staple goods, eggs and milk and bread and whatever. And now they
Sure.
got this. It's almost like the looks of a convenience store on the inside. So you can get pretty much everything. You can
Sure.
get farm fresh eggs there. You can get milk from the local dairy there. You can get all this stuff. But then they've probably got, I'm going to guess, there's probably 100 foot of cases in there that have nothing but every cut of meat. So you want your ribeyes? Here they are. And they cryovac everything. It's
Really?
not just wrapped in butcher paper. It's
Uh-huh.
cryovac. It's just, you can get every cut of pork, every cut of beef fresh on a daily basis. And then once the way they do it, they've got about a 10-day shelf life on that meat. And when it gets out to like 7 or 8 days, they throw it to the freezer and you can buy it discounted at the freezer.
Huh. I wonder if
Yeah.
somebody like Casey's would be carrying some of their beef sticks.
I have
Since
not
Casey's is
seen
based out of Des Moines.
Yeah.
There.
You would think so. If they were smart, they would.
You know what?
But
I think I actually have seen them at Come and Go.
really?
Maybe. I feel like there's a certain kind of beef stick that I ate a lot when I was on my really intense diet because they had a lot of protein. And I thought it was a locally, and it might be them now that I'm thinking about it, but I'd have to look.
Huh.
I know Iowa Smokehouse is the big player, and I try
I see that a lot.
beef sticks because when I go to the grocery store every day, it's getting to be 3, 4, 5 o'clock or whatever, and I'm getting pretty hungry, and I tend to just grab, instead of grabbing a candy bar because I don't have lunch, I grab a beef stick, and it kind of tides me over to get me through until dinner's
That's a good
cooked.
idea.
And so I try different ones all the time, and I'm telling you, the Milo Locker ones, they're 10 times better than any one I ever had. I mean,
I'll be damned.
Yeah,
it's crazy. You'll be coming
if
to
it's
Des
the
Moines,
one that I
Randy,
think it is.
You'll be stocking up.
Sounds like I will. Like I will.
And reasonable too. I think there's 5 sticks, but their sticks are like over a foot long, right?
Really?
5 sticks
so good size.
We'll sell them for $8.99, I think.
For 5?
Which is for 5 of them.
Okay.
And that's
you
still
sell them
well below. I
individually.
mean, we're not going to sell them individually at this point. He said we could do individually, but right now we're going to sell them by the 5-pack.
Okay.
We're going to bring 5 varieties in to start, and then we're just going to see. I mean, I could envision us having a Milo meat locker case. Somebody, hey, you want to come in and get barbecue for lunch and whatever, and hey, you want to grab a steak or whatever, grab a steak and kind of market it and be an outlet for them in Des Moines. Because if they're in Des Moines, and you talk about cheap, their prices are $2 a pound cheaper. I mean, all their ground beef was $3.99 a pound, and I mean this was $85.15. I mean, if you wanted to stock up your freezer, that's worth the 45-minute drive. I mean, and
I bet you there's a lot of people
to go in the freezer.
And I bet you there's a lot of people from Des Moines that does.
Yeah, I was there on a Saturday morning, and they were lined out the door.
Were they really?
Oh, just a little hidden gem. And when I find a little hidden gem like that, I'll do everything I can to propose it. But.
Sure.
So anyway.
Hey, Darren, can you do me a favor quick? Can you move closer to your microphone?
I know. Okay.
Just getting a little echoey, so the first 20 minutes might be a little rough, but
I like to lean back.
Appreciate it. I appreciate it.
I need one of them.
Yeah.
I need one of those like things like this that hangs.
Well, if you weren't so on the go,
we
could get you like a whole setup. Remember when you were talking about making a podcast room? You could have had those.
I know. Haven't got around to that yet.
Yeah. Don't hold it like that. You look ridiculous.
That doesn't look very good. And you're going to get a cramp in your arm. So.
Yeah.
And
then it's just going to slowly start. It's going to start like slowly get'ing lower.
Hey, you said you did a barbecue contest this weekend over there in Florida.
Yeah.
How'd you get along?
Yeah.
Well, I flew over there. I drove over alone. I didn't have a can.
So you cooked it by yourself?
I cooked it by myself, yeah. And I'm used to, my wife, she knows, she's a fair weather barbecue fan, even though she probably would have been there. I think she would have had fun. But no, I cooked it by myself, I was back on the Jambo this week. So I ran under the Iowa Smokey D's name. And we pretty much opened up a can of whip-ass on them. I had a really, really good cook. I probably wouldn't have changed anything. I did a couple things that I kind of fucked up. So I forgot my brisket rub. I forgot my brisket rub here at the house. I had my rib rub, one of my rib rubs. I had it in my box, and I took it out and said, I don't need this. And then I get over there, and I didn't have rib rub. So off to Ace True Value I went. And I ended up, I used some of the Blues Hog, the sweet and savory, in place of my, we refer to it on the barbecue circuit as Cimarron Docks.
Right.
So instead of my Cimarron Docks, I used sweet and savory, which is, it was a good substitute. And
How'd you do
then
in
I didn't
ribs?
have my first with a perfect score.
Okay, so there's that.
there you go. There
So,
you go.
Mitey.
So, and I never cooked chicken, so I'd never cooked chicken on the small can before. All I had was a small can. And so I was cooking chicken on the small can, and I was trying to focus on keeping that can under 275 degrees. And it was, but I put the chicken a little bit too far. I was cooking legs because I
Okay.
scored with legs last time, and I hadn't scored in chicken forever. I'm like, hell, it was easy enough. I'll cook legs again. So I cooked legs again, and I got them a little too close to the outside, and evidently it's hotter on the outside. And
Okay.
my skin kind of shrunk up. And I'm like, well, that looks like shit. And then I'm like, after about 10 minutes, I'm like, well, I'm just going to put some seasoning over that place that doesn't have skin. I bet you they won't be able to tell the difference. And when in the
Right.
end product, you couldn't tell the difference. It was just kind of adapting.
How'd you do in
so I
chicken?
I got fifth in chicken.
Okay.
I got a comment card. I got a comment card from I got 2 comment cards for the week. One of the comment cards for chicken was beautifully cooked. Tenderness, flavor, and heat made wonderful chicken to judge. 999.
There you
They
go.
clicked
Wow.
everything on here. Pleasant, satisfying, enjoyable, meets the tenderness, pleasant, satisfying, whatever. They loved it.
Orgasmic.
So orgasmic.
Okay, why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's
Why?
Randy. Because it's fun when
Randy,
Emma
I did a search yesterday, or last on this. Sorry, I'm on a
on
tangent real quick.
orgasmic.
I did no. I did a word search on our last episode to see how many times we dropped an F-bomb without you. We average about 30 F-bombs an episode, okay? When all 3 of us are on here, between the 2 of you. And without Randy, we had 2 last week.
Randy's
And they
got
were
a
at the
potty
very
mouth.
end.
Randy's got
Randy's
a potty.
got it.
I've
They were at
actually
the
heard that.
very
I've actually heard that from a couple people. They're like, God, Randy's a potty mouth.
I've
All right,
also
I'll
heard
clean
that.
my act
People
up.
be like,
I'll
Randy's
clean it up. All right.
unhinged.
I'll start using
it's
using
okay.
my sophisticated language. I really expanded
Oh,
my
that's almost a
vocabulary.
little more scary.
And so I'm going to
'cause if
facilitate using a better language.
Okay, because if you
Okay.
don't, you might get put on. No, you ain't putting on probation at all.
Okay. All right.
No. Okay.
So anyway,
Back
so
to your
ribs.
competition. Yeah.
So ribs. I cooked some compart ribs. I'm not sponsored by Smithfield anymore, so I can say that I cook compart ribs. And really, the reason I cooked compart ribs was that Jeff from Shigan had a bunch shipped down here to cook barbecue contest, and he didn't cook as many, so I stole his ribs out of my freezer.
Sure.
And I cooked those ribs. I cooked that and the compart ribs. I cooked, and they turned out really nice. They didn't look the best, I didn't think, but evidently they must have tasted good. I thought that the tenderness on them was spot on, Scotty. So it was good. Pork, tried something different. I know they really like this canned flavor. Can you hear them rascals? I live on a canal, and the dogs are outside now
Darren,
across the thing barking.
The dogs have been like we could hear airplanes, we can hear birds chirping. You got every background noise you could have.
Good. Well, I didn't want to sit inside today. I wanted to sit outside, so just put up with it.
So anyway, pork.
But the pork, but then the pork. So I thought, they've really been, all them guys that are cooking on cans are scoring in pork. So I took my pork and I started it for the first hour on this small little can, and it was okay. It didn't look the best, but then I re-seasoned it, threw it on the Jambo, and then I finished it on the Jambo so I could watch it. And it turned out, I tried a little something different with presentation, because I'm by myself, I can screw around stuff. So,
well, let me ask you this: why did you start it on the can?
Because I could. Well,
okay.
So here's my thinking. So if can cooks are scoring in pork, evidently they like the flavor of food cooked on a drum in pork. All them top pork cooks are cooking on cans.
Okay.
Well, maybe outside Jordan from Kirkpatrick, he cooks on an Outlaw, but for the most part, a lot of the guys that score consistently in pork are cooking on the drum.
Okay.
Well, and I haven't been scoring cooking on the Jambo in pork, so I'm like, I'm just going to start it over here, get the flavor on there.
Okay. All right.
But then move it over to the Jambo and wrap it so that I could better watch it.
So when it was
Things
on the
move
Jambo, it was wrapped in
slower
foil.
on the Jambo. Well, for the most part, I left it on the Jambo for another half hour because I wanted to re-season it a little bit because I didn't think it had enough seasoning on it. So I re-seasoned it, wrapped it on there, took it off. Thought I'd overdone it. It felt good, but it was a lot higher in temperature than I wanted to be. I actually remembered my Cambro this time, so I actually put it in the Cambro and kept it warm this time. But when it come out, it was good. Did a little different presentation. Ended up fourth in pork.
There you go.
And then I got to brisket. Forgot my brisket rub at home.
I was going to say, what'd you do for
I
rub?
didn't even have any at home, to tell you the truth, because at last contest, I had to go over to Luke and borrow brisket rub. Well, then I, of course, didn't write it down. So I get there with my handy toolbox, and I get ready to season my brisket on Saturday morning, and I'm like, oh, shit, I don't have my brisket rub. So I'm walking around trying to figure out the neighbors. I end up borrowing some Kinders that they bought at Sam's Club, some Kinders salt, pepper, garlic.
Really?
And I seasoned my brisket with Kinder seasoning.
And how'd you do in brisket?
And first place in that Snake River brisket. Yeah.
So are you learning some things here?
So here's the thing.
Like maybe you might need to switch it up more often.
Here's the thing that amazes me is you had two things go wrong that a lot of people would flip out about. They don't have the rub. You sat down and thought about it, and that's why you're the best at barbecue contests. You know, and I'm stroking you some. So, but anyway,
yeah, I was gonna say, Randy, what is wrong?
Yeah,
what is wrong with?
And but I mean, you overcome adversity. Is that the right term?
Yeah.
You had some stuff mess you.
Sunday morning.
You had some stuff messing you up, and instead of panicking, you sat down and figured out, okay, go to Ace Hardware. Now,
right?
Because you knew the Blues Hog products are all at Ace Hardware. Ace Hardware everywhere in the country carries them. You know,
right?
And then and so that was a gimme. Now the brisket
gimme,
rub,
and it would have been a gimme on the brisket, except for they were out of Bold and Beefy there.
Okay, who's Bold and Beefy? Who makes Bold and Beefy?
That's another Blues Hog one.
Oh, it's another Blues Hog. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and I don't want to give him too much credit because he's only wanting to give me half price off of a new can for sponsoring my 1 can challenge.
Oh,
so fuck. Let's not give him too much.
But borrowing from mooching, I instead of borrowing, I like the term mooch. You mooch some.
I was mooching.
Some Kinder rub that we all see at Sam's Club all the time, and you see the Kinder, and it's like, oh, that stuff isn't worth a damn. It's no good. It's just for the back. It's just for somebody cooking at home. Well, you proved it wrong. It is pretty good stuff, and you made it work. Now, granted, the rub are not the key to everything, but it just shows you were able to make those things work.
Yeah, I had a brisket. Snake River Farms had sent us, Jeff and I, some briskets down to Florida, and this was the last one in the freezer. And so I just took it out. And last time I left Florida, because I knew I was coming back to cook, so I just put it in the refrigerator for about 2 weeks. And when I trimmed that up, I'm like, boy, this is a good brisket. I mean, like, okay. I was confident in that brisket. And when I cooked that brisket and went to slice into the brisket, I told Sherry last night, I said, I think it's the best brisket that I've cooked in 3 years. I was kind of disappointed I didn't get a 180 with that brisket. No, I wasn't disappointed, but I was 1 point away from – I was 1 point away. I was 1 taste point away from getting a 180 in pork. I was 1 taste point away in brisket from getting a 180.
Wow.
So
Wow.
Realistically, you add up. If I would have got both those taste points and got 9s instead of 8s,
Yeah.
that adds another 5. That adds another 5 points to my score. And that's a That's a 719 out of 720. Never ever been done before.
So overall, what was your overall score?
So we hit a 714 something, 714.4, whatever. Highest score I've ever recorded. I think I've hit a 7. I think I've hit a 710 or a 711 was my highest. I know there's people that have hit 715 and 716s. There's a few of them out, but I'm guessing that finish is probably, and people may tell me wrong, but just of what I follow, it's got to be top 10 highest finish ever in a barbecue contest.
That's insane.
That right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
It was crazy, but
what the heck?
I mean, I had a great cook, but I had even a lot more fun.
How many teams were there? How many teams were there?
Well, there was only 20 teams.
Okay.
There, it was a first-year contest.
Oh, okay.
But so when I set up next to, and I learned so much from people. So I set up next to this this team called Prayer Barbecue, and so I get to talking to them, and these guys are pretty high rollers, even though you couldn't tell with the way they were. But so Prayer Barbecue was a bunch of guys that used to be, they were in the vegetable business, vegetable farming.
Okay.
At one point, they were the number one producer of green bell pepper in the country.
Really?
Right? Now,
Amazing.
they own about 75,000 acres of ranches. And these ranches are agricultural ranches, hunting ranches, real estate, da-da-da-da-da. So anyway, so we got an in every time we want to go hunting or fishing in a ranch in Florida where we've got an in. But but this Prayer Barbecue, these guys go around to different events and they cook meat and they just hand it out. They just hand it out for free. So where somebody might be vending, they don't vend. They just cook meat and hand it out. So they do a ton of charity work. Just super, super nice guys. I mean, I was next to, and they diversified. So they have a bunch of cattle and stuff. They got a real estate company, insurance company. I mean, they do just,
holy crap.
I mean, crazy, crazy portfolio stuff. And then across the street from us was another guy that he was the number one producer of sweet corn in the country. So
amazing.
Most people know, I mean, Iowa has sweet corn and different states have sweet corn, in the at certain times of the year. Florida has it pretty much almost all year long,
Interesting.
and this is,
I didn't know that.
So this is in the Everglades. So this guy was the number one producer of sweet corn shipped out. And so they were serving.
This is what you see at the grocery store.
Yeah, they had this huge rotisserie. It was 4 rotisserie smokers on this big 30-foot trailer. They pulled in. They were cooking the barbecue contest just for fun. But when it came time to it, they loaded her all up with corn and started making the corn. The quality of the corn wasn't super great. It wasn't super sweet yet. So they adjusted and they started serving Mexican street corn. So instead of just serving buttered corn, they were serving the public Mexican street corn. So they were mayonnaising it and put the cotija cheese on it and the tahini on it. They were doing that and just handing it out for free.
I'll be damned.
My Lord.
Yeah. So, and there was a lot of teams there that, don't cook a lot. I mean, there was 3 or 4 teams to beat there. That was when I look at it, when I sized up the competition, there was some of the usual Florida, guys, and the number one team in the country was there. He came out of, I don't know, whatever. He ended up getting 8th. He flew in, trying to come in. But it was overall, I met with a lot of people that would come over. The organizer's like, nobody likes that you're here. And I'm like, really? I'm the friendliest guy in the world. Why would nobody like me? They said, well, they think you're going to kick their ass. I'm like, nah, I'm just a has-been. Don't listen to them. I used to be really good. I'm not very good anymore, because I don't play the game. But everybody constantly was coming up to me and saying, hey, I got a question for you about, hey, my chicken skin's pulling back. And I did hear a lot about, hey, I love your podcast. I listen to it every day.
Really?
You know,
We love
I
that.
There you
listen,
go.
or every week, every Monday, they listen to it on the way to work and whatever.
Guys, we're
So,
I'll be
famous.
dang.
I'm trying to tell you.
so yeah, we're soon to be famous. Yeah. But
Yeah.
We're the
anyway,
In
next
our
new
own
heights.
minds.
We're the new heights of barbecue. I
so
said it.
anyway, they so I was answering. I was coaching all weekend long. I was
Good for
just
you.
straight out. Hey, I try this. I do this. I do this. I probably helped 10 different teams with just different problems they had with different meats. I'm like, hey, I don't know if this is the answer or not, but here's what I do.
Right.
And I just tell them exactly what I do. So, people are like, why don't you have a class? And I'm like, what? Why would you want a class? Just come cook at a barbecue contest with me and just hang out next to me. I'll tell you whatever you need to know. Because,
Right.
when you talk about, Randy, you talked about earlier about this rub and that rub and getting, it doesn't matter. Most of the thing is you got to be lucky. You got to be lucky with the hitting the right tables and stuff like that. And you got to cook good tenderness food, but it doesn't really matter. I saw a lot of new cooks that they were kind of following like the Matt Pittman of Meat Church and Malcolm Reed and Cosmo, and they were doing stuff that I see videos doing that. They were taking
Yeah.
brisket
Well,
tallow. They took their brisket fat and they were melting it down and they let it cool off and they smeared it on the butcher paper and they were doing it home style.
Right.
And the guys next to me, I joked with them a lot. Nico was one of the guys, and he's a trained chef. And
Oh,
Nico
okay.
was there cooking, and he puts his brisket on about 2:00 in the afternoon. I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm putting my brisket on." I'm like, "Already?" He's like, "Yeah. When do you put your brisket on?" I said, "I'd like to have it on by 6 tomorrow morning." He looked at me, and goes, "You can't what?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's just different method. I'm sure you're
yeah.
being." So he was trying to cook a Texas style brisket.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it looked beautiful in the pit. They had this tricked out pit from Texas. It was like tricked out, like one of them 500-gallon barrels that was custom made.
Right.
But
Sure.
this thing,
Uh-huh.
they had an air compressor in the front of it that it raised it, and all the tires were on air ride. So it would raise the pit up to a certain level, and he hit a remote control he'd do it by. So when he was going down the road, he just lift up, and it was an air ride trailer. When he got to the contest site, if he wanted the pit at a certain level, he could just drop the airbags a little bit, or he could drop it all the way and let it sit on the ground.
I'll
It
be
was
damned.
tricked out cool. I mean, I definitely had pit envy when it comes to those guys. So they're cooking, along, and they're cooking their brisket. And I mean, the brisket looks amazing. I just want to eat it. But I knew that they were spending all this time developing the bark. So my hotel was about 45, 50 minutes away. That was the closest hotel I could get. So
Right.
I
My
left
God.
about 7:00 at night and headed back to Clewiston, which was the next town over, because they said it wasn't really safe to stay in the town we were staying in.
Uh-huh.
Every pickup truck in the world had the window broke out of it. I said, "What's the
Oh.
deal with the window broke out?" And they're like, "Theft." I'm like, "Oh."
Hmm.
Oh.
But
Love
we
that.
were out on this Torrey Island. It was an amazing place. But so I drove back. It took me 45 minutes at night to drive back. It took me a half hour to wait in the Popeyes chicken drive-through line because I was starved, hadn't had anything since breakfast. and I'm like, I can't give up on this. I can't give up on this. And so got back. I just demolished this 3-piece dinner.
Oh, I
I
bet.
forgot my fork, so I had to eat red beans and rice with a damn coffee cup lid. But other than that, I was starved. So I, I paid $250 for a
Was
hotel room that I was in there for 6.5 hours, but that's fine.
there anything
But I
you
got up.
remembered?
What?
Is there anything you remembered for this cook? I
The
mean, you forgot
fork
2 rubs
isn't his fault.
and you didn't have a fork. You had to
Popeyes
use a
isn't his
coffee
fault.
cup lid. But you won the damn thing, so that's what counts.
See, yeah,
it-
what
it-
the...
It was fun. So anyway, they got ready. So fast forward, they're going through, and I'm trying to coach them through turn-ins. And I'm like, you may like it that way, but this is the way you got to cook it, because I'm cooking for judges. I'm not cooking for myself.
Yeah.
So he gets
Right.
ready to turn in his brisket. Nico turns in his brisket, and it looks really good. But it's got about
Yeah.
a 1/4-inch ribbon of fat on it. It's got this bark, and he put it fat side up in the box. He goes, "What do you think?" And I said, "I think I'd take it out and cut that fat off." And he goes, "Well, that's all where my flavor is." And I said, "I think I'd take it out of the box and and they didn't have any sauce on it, whatever. And I said, he goes,
Okay.
I don't like it with sauce on it. I said, it's not you eating it, buddy. Well, they ended up maybe glazing it with a little sauce. I didn't see where they finished the brisket, but I had a slice of the brisket. It was really good. It tasted great. I just wanted to grab white bread and throw 3-4 slices on.
Sure.
It's just not what they wanted from a judging perspective.
Yeah. Exactly.
Right? I mean, what they want from judging is full of phosphates and blah, 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 yuck.
Okay.
Yeah.
So coming as like from your former social media person, would you, and learning that, you know that these guys are watching YouTubers and how they do it, would you ever consider actually making a YouTube channel and like, I mean, not giving away all, well, you kind of do give away all your secrets anyway, but like showing it in a more of a, like, this is more like competition style barbecue and stuff like that. Would you do that?
You know, Emma, I always fought you on that. I always fought you
now I'm
from
a
a
freaking
time
genius.
standpoint. Well, now you're a genius. So anyway, so interesting side story. So Brett, the guy that I was with Prayer Barbecue that was there that had all the ranches and the partners and stuff, and just 4 guys there, just great guys. Matter of fact, side note, one of the guys, his daughter is the personal pastry chef for Donald Trump and has been for 10 years. So she's based at Mar-a-Lago and has been for 10 years. Yeah.
Wow.
And so she just refuses to, he's like, she wants to do her own thing, but she just doesn't feel like she could leave the staff high and dry. She doesn't want to leave, but just great people. I mean, Southern Florida hospitality. I mean, it was just, these guys are second to none. One guy, one of the vendors, he had a crack in his trailer. And they said, oh, no problem. We'll call the shop. They called the shop. Boom. Here comes a guy up, welds him up. He goes, hey, what do I owe you? Oh, you don't owe us anything. And so they're like, that's Southern Florida hospitality. They went and grabbed their mobile unit. Nice. Anywhere else would have cost them $500. They said, you don't owe us anything.
If they had got it done, it's just to get it done.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly meeting these people and learning. I learned a lot about, that a red bell pepper is really a green bell pepper, just aged longer?
I did not.
I didn't know that.
That's interesting. What about a yellow one?
So a yellow one is aged at a different level. But so they always want to sell, and if I remember this right, they always want to sell green bell peppers, right? Because they have the best yield. As peppers age in the field and they, in essence, start to die and the seeds turn off, the yield goes way down. So they had something like they could produce 1,100 cases of peppers per acre there. But if they went to red bell, it was only 400 cases per acre.
They shrink.
So they wanted to get that much. They wanted to get as much green pepper, but they could only sell so many green peppers before people want the red pepper. So they have to sell the red pepper. They just soon. I mean, the one guy left the barbecue
so
contest
interesting
because he's like, "Hey, we're the only ones around that has cucumbers going, and cucumbers are going for $56 a case. We need to pick cucumbers today." So he was all in. Hey, I'm leaving this barbecue contest because I got a crew. We're going to go pick cucumbers.
I'll be damned.
It's just that whole produce world. I mean, one of the things that they give, U.S. Sugar, was one of the sponsors of this. And so they gave everybody this big old box of fresh organic produce. I mean, it had radishes and beets, and it had different types of romaine and cabbage and head lettuce and kale. And
I'll be damned.
It was just a crazy good package. But the other thing I learned was that's sugarcane country, right?
Oh, okay.
And since we're an informative podcast, there was so as I was driving to the barbecue contest, there was this huge fire. And it was like 3-4 miles off the road. And I'm like, what is burning over there? I mean, it was wide. So I got back and all of a sudden, I'm sitting there shooting the shit with these guys from Prayer's Barbecue. And all of a sudden, these little pieces of ash. And they're like, they're burning sugar cane. And I was like, what? And he goes, yeah, they're burning sugar cane. He says, the ash, it's floating in here. It's going to get on everything. You can see it. He said, that ash will float for 80 miles if the wind's right.
Really?
And I said,
80 miles?
Yeah. And I said, why do they burn sugar cane? When you burn sugar cane in the field, you burn the plant. It raises the what I want to say, it raises the sugar level, or they called it something else. It raised not the glucose level. It raised the sweetness of the sugar by burning the plant. So they burn these fields off, and then they process it.
So
this might be the most interesting episode we have ever done.
So you're saying the sugar cane, when they process sugar cane, they don't cut it and take it in
burn
green.
the field up. So what? Right. So it looked like, I'm like, what are these fields? And I had a feeling it was sugarcane, but it didn't look like sugarcane. To me, seems like big stalks. Well, it's also got all this other. It's got all this other stuff growing out of it. Well, they would burn that off. They would purposely burn that off to raise the fructose level. No, God damn it, I don't know what it was, but it was some level, the level of sweetness. They would burn that off, and then they would harvest it. And that's the way they do it. Now, of course, the EPA was all over their ass about burning and da-da-da-da-da. So they're trying to figure out how do they process and how do they harvest, whatever. But they were still doing it. That's still what happens
I'll be dead.
Today.
Huh. That is fascinating.
Then they go in and cut it and take it to the processing plant, I assume.
Right. So then I was talking to Brett, and we had turned in and cleaning up stuff, and here comes this guy in this camo shorts and camo top. And Brett says, "Hey, Darren, come here. I want you to meet this guy." And meet the guy, and he's got a little YouTube channel called Deer Meat for Dinner. And I'm like, oh, okay, didn't think anything about it. We got a YouTuber. 3.2 or 3.4 million subscribers.
3.4 million. I checked before.
Wow.
3.4 million.
Incredible.
Kind of a big deal.
He's kind of a big deal, but I tell you, him and his wife shoot these videos, and I'm telling you, Robert Arrington was the guy's name, and super nice guy. And he does YouTube videos, tells me he has 2 cameramen. One travels with him at all time, and one does special shoots. Him and his wife. They have a general manager, and they have an agent. He's got 10 huge sponsors that pay him to use their products and whatever. He didn't want any more sponsors. He doesn't want any more sponsors. He's got 10 big name sponsors. I think Fleet Farm and stuff like that.
I was going to say, did he tell you who they were?
We didn't go through who they are, but you can just watch one of or 2 of his videos to figure out who they are.
That's true.
But but he edits all his own video work, which was amazing. So after I won, I'm sitting there trying to shoot a little video. He goes, "Hand me your phone. Give me your phone." So I'll post that on social media. He did a little video, and then I had about 20 pictures of me getting pictures. I was getting with the old county fair queens and whatever. Every time I won a category, you had to go take a picture. So he took all those, and he goes, "My phone's dead, but." He goes, "I'm sending these to me. I'm going to create you a kick-ass video and send it back to you." He goes, "Why aren't you doing YouTube?" He said, "I don't think anybody's doing competition barbecue on YouTube." And I said, "I don't know." I went into the whole story about Emma tried to get me to do YouTube forever.
Okay, good. As long as I got credit.
He was saying, "Do you know the potential there?" He says, "The 21st of every month is my favorite because that's when my Google ad paycheck comes in. And when you got 3.4 million subscribers, it's a pretty big payday. These guys are rollers."
I can only imagine. I can only imagine.
He is traveling the world. He was showing me pictures that the Navy flies him in to cook on aircraft carriers. They fly his barbecue pit in to cook wild game on aircraft carriers. And he was getting ready to go on one aircraft carrier that was over in the Mediterranean Sea. And he was supposed to fly out the next day, and the general calls him and says, "Don't come." He says, "We've just got put into action," because he said anytime there's an aircraft carrier, he says it's live in war. They're doing drills for war situations. He's showing me all these pictures. He's up on the flight deck, and these things are locked and loaded, all these planes. I mean, they got the bullets hanging, the big missiles hanging down from them.
God.
Wow.
I mean, this guy has been everywhere. He's been in Africa and hunted and eaten with tribes, cooked meat over fire. And these people didn't even have names. They didn't even have names. It was so primitive, they don't even have names. So it's not Joe or Fred or whatever. And so of course, I was watching deer meat for dinner videos till about 11 o'clock last night.
So
Yeah.
Ian, what's the name of his Google? What's the name of his YouTube channel?
Deer
meat for dinner.
Deer meat for
Yeah.
dinner. I mean, I watched one this
Okay.
morning that he wanted to go crappie fishing, and he didn't have anybody to crappie fishing with, so he went down to the boat dock, and here's a kid down there, and he's like, "Oh yeah, we're hunting wild hogs, which is big down here, hunting wild hogs, but we're done hunting for the day, so I'm just going to do a little fishing off dock." He says, "You want to go fishing?" Kid's like, "Yeah." He goes, "Call your mom, see if you can go fishing." So they went out and just slammed these crappies. They're just catching these slab crappies. Well, afterwards, he says, "Hey, send them back. Tell them to meet us at the boat ramp. We're gonna have a fish fry at the boat ramp." And it was dark out, and they've got fire burning. They started a fire, and they got out cast iron skillets and started filleting and frying fish. And all of a sudden, there's like 30 people around. And it's just all but the beautiful thing, it's just all organic video. There's nothing that looks professional about this at all.
Right.
It's just super organic. And he had a GoPro in his hand. He goes, "I never leave home without my GoPro." He said, "I always have my GoPro because there's always something to do." Yeah, they were getting ready to leave. When they get ready to leave, he said, "Yeah, we're getting ready to leave. We're going thermal coyote hunting tonight."
Okay.
So they were going to go post up on Brett's ranch, and they had thermal imaging to see where the coyotes were running, and then they were shooting them from thermal images.
Right.
Pretty cool shit.
There's a guy that did that here at home. He set up on our field out here, and I went back there. And it's a damnedest thing. He'd have it on his phone, and he'd just move the gun across and go. It's like you'd see their eyes and stuff, and then they'd blast them.
Yeah, he said he wants to do a collaboration type of. He wants to go to a barbecue contest. That we're at a barbecue contest, and he wants to go out and shoot a hog and cook it on his pit, and in the same spot have me cooking and he couldn't call it swamp cabbage. They make big pots of swamp cabbage.
What's swamp
cabbage?
I
need to figure out what, I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Go watch some videos about swamp cabbage. But he says, we can cook this hog and we can cook swamp cabbage. We'll just hand it out to the public. In the meantime, you cook the barbecue contest over here and we'll film you at the same time. Because he wanted to keep his focus on.
As your former digital marketing manager, you absolutely have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That'd be huge if you could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I feel like I've made some lifelong friends. These guys were just, the hospitality was just amazing.
Well, that just says something about barbecue contests. A lot of people bitch about people not being friendly and stuff. If you're friendly, they're friendly.
That's exactly
that's
right.
the key of the
Don't
game.
go sit in your trailer, move out. Yeah, I had a hell of a time. I needed you there, Randy, because during turn-ins, of course, my pit was open to the public. And there was a bunch, "Hey, you selling barbecue? You selling barbecue?" And I hear I'm trying to turn in brisket. And the guy's like, he could tell I was busy. And he looked around and goes, "Excuse me." And I looked and I kind of held my hand up and goes, "I know you're super busy, but I only got 2 questions." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I'm going to try and answer these while I'm slicing my brisket because I am really busy for about 2 minutes here." But he wasn't taking no for an answer. It's just one of those things that you need I needed somebody out, monitoring the crowd for me. It would have been much easier. But overall, a great week, a great weekend. Met a lot of new friends. Great contest. The organizer, they did an amazing job with it. I'll definitely be back. I think a lot of people will be back when they figure out. I walked up to the stage to get, I knew I had pretty much won because I had 2 first, a fourth, and a fifth. And I walked up to get the Grand Champion Award, and they handed me this big check. And on it said $5,000. I'm like, this was a 20-team contest that just paid $5,000.
Wow!
For winning. Yeah. So I walked out with about $6,100. It was. I'll have to talk to the organizer a little bit about that, and say, hey, you need to probably spread the wealth a little bit amongst everybody else.
I was going to say, I was like, is that as a barbecue dummy? Is that like high?
I would hardware trip.
Yeah, right. And that's after we get off this.
You could have lost and still covered that.
I don't know. We had a flight.
Oh, jeez.
And I left Sherry at home for 5 days, so she's been on the phone with me going, I think I'm going to remodel this and remodel. I'm like, so yeah, it was not a very productive trip. I guarantee it cost me a lot more than I made.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So, do you think you're going to switch up your rubs a little bit more often? Do you think you learned something from this?
I think it doesn't matter. I mean, I went through the phase
I
that I was
think-
cooking
yeah.
smoking guns hot and Cimarron docks and everything, and I was successful there. Tell you the truth, don't make anything that's offensive. Another thing that I learned, or I
It's
was
offensive.
seeing a bunch of people as advice to these new teams, it doesn't matter whose name's on the label of meat, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm sponsored by Smithfield, of course I'm going to talk back good about Smithfield or somebody, but
Mhm.
every company has good meat, every company
Yeah.
has bad meat. And so
Right.
look through the label on the package and look for a good rack of ribs, because there's a great rack of ribs at every company and there's crappy ribs. So don't just get tied up in, hey,
Names.
this is what I cook. Now
Yeah.
some stuff like briskets, Snake River Farms to me, and the reason I use them and they sponsor me is because they are the most consistent brisket out there. Right? Do
Consistency.
I always get a great brisket? No. Do sometimes I get an over the top brisket? Yes. But sometimes I have an okay brisket that I'm like, it's kind of thin. But when I cook it, I end up scoring with it. So it's all about the consistency of the product. You know, that's why
Right.
people use Compart Duroc. That's why
Looks
people
don't
use
matter.
Snake River Farms. It's the consistency of things that are happening. So
Sure.
you know, just that's important when you're looking at stuff.
Mhm.
The rest is just details. Don't get too tied up in if you know, put your barbecue sauce with your honey or your honey with your barbecue sauce. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Don't worry about putting 15 rubs, because if you boil them apart, I could put one rub and it's going to taste the same at the end.
Right.
Interesting.
Yep.
Well,
So
you guys got
sounds
anything
like
else?
a good weekend. No, I don't.
Yeah, it does sound like it was a good weekend for
It was a
D-Dub.
great weekend.
Yeah.
It was one of my most
Randy had a good weekend.
enjoyable barbecue weekends that I've had in quite some time. Just really from the people I met. Not even if I
Sure.
didn't go out
Yeah.
there getting 20th place, I still had a damn good time and met some friends for life. So
And that's kind of
Good.
what, in my opinion, that's what barbecue contest should be about.
Yeah,
that's what it's all about.
it's about
Yeah.
the community.
That's
I
right.
think we've actually said that before. But well,
Okay.
good deal. Good deal. You guys got anything else for our listeners?
Nope. Go through your spiel, Emma.
Okay. Follow us on social media at Cue the Mic Pod. We are on X, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, Facebook. I said, yeah, that's correct. And then we are at Cue the Mic Podcast on YouTube. Subscribe to us there. Like our videos, comment on our videos, send us messages, leave likes. I don't know, do all the things. Download this episode if you want. Just helps us, have a better idea of how many listeners we do actually have. And yeah, that's that. There you go.
Go subscribe to my newest buddy, Deer Meat for Dinner on
Do
YouTube.
meat for dinner.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause
Great guy. Had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You're going to see some more stuff in the future from us, because he's got it going on. He's got it going on, and he was just a fun, vibrant guy to be around. So
Right on.
All right.
Yeah.
So
well, I think that was episode 46.
done.
that was it.
Finished.
Randy.
Yes.
That was a little premature.
Yeah. It was,
Sorry, I thought
that's
she
all
was
right.
done.
Have you thought about, Randy? That was a little premature. Maybe you should take one of them HIMS tablets before you get on
Good
the podcast.
idea. There you go.
Boom.
Boom.
We're outta here.
Done.
All right.
Out of here.
We'll see you guys next week.